When 61-year-old Sidney Greenstreet walked onto a Warner Brothers soundstage for his very first day in front of a camera,
"Here's the plane speaking."
he was so nervous he asked Mary Astor to hold his hand. Film noir was about to get its defining villain, and Hollywood's greatest detective movie was about to be born. This is The Maltese Falcon, and the story behind this 1941 masterpiece is just as twisted as The Hunt for That Black Bird. The third time's the charm, but nobody wanted to try. The Maltese Falcon had already bombed twice. Warner Brothers first adapted Dashiell Hammett's novel in 1931, with Ricardo Cortez playing Spade in a silk lounging robe, like he was auditioning for a perfume ad. Then, in 1936, came Satan Met a Lady starring Bette Davis, who flat out called it junk. They changed so much that the Falcon wasn't even a Falcon anymore. So when screenwriter John Huston pitched directing a third version, the studio shrugged and said, sure, why not? They figured it was a throwaway project perfect for a first-time director. Nobody expected magic. Turns out, third time really is the charm. George Raft handed Bogart his career by being an idiot. George Raft was Warner Brothers' top tough guy, and they wanted him badly for Sam Spade. But Raft took one look at the script and passed. His reasons? He didn't want to work with a rookie director, and his contract said he didn't have to do remakes. Here's the kicker. Raft had also turned down High Sierra earlier that same year, another role that went to Bogart. Hollywood legend claims Bogart himself talked Raft out of that one, essentially conning him. Whether true or not, Raft's terrible instincts became Bogart's golden ticket. In 1 year, Raft handed Bogart 2 career-defining roles. The following year, he'd reportedly turned down Casablanca too. The man had perhaps the worst taste in Hollywood history. John Huston planned every single second like a paranoid genius. Most first-time directors show up terrified and winging it, not John Huston. This guy treated his debut like a military operation. He sketched out every single shot beforehand, camera positions, lighting angles, actor movement. He storyboarded the entire film like Hitchcock would later become famous for doing. Huston was so meticulous that his screenplay included detailed instructions to himself, like canvases of paintings, he said. And get this, he shot the entire film in sequence, which almost never happened in Hollywood. Most movies shoot out of order for budget reasons, but Huston convinced the studio to let him film chronologically. This helped the actors build their characters naturally as the mystery unfolded. $381,000 and 2 days early. Because Huston planned everything obsessively, the Maltese Falcon wrapped 2 days ahead of schedule and came in $54,000 under budget. Total cost? $381,000. That's less than most studios today spend on craft services. They filmed from June 9th to July 18th, 1941, barely over a month. Some days, they'd nail scenes so fast, the cast and crew would knock off early and hit the Lakeside Golf Club. On one legendary day, Huston blocked out an entire day for an elaborate tracking shot. They nailed it in one take and spent the afternoon golfing. The film earned over $1.7 million worldwide, massive profit that proved Huston's method worked. Mary Astor, fresh off Hollywood's biggest sex scandal. In 1936, 5 years before this film, Mary Astor was at the center of a custody battle that knocked Adolf Hitler off front pages. Her ex-husband stole her diary, a purple journal where she'd written extraordinarily explicit accounts of her affair with playwright George S. Kaufman. Details so graphic that the one entry safe enough to read in court said, 17 times. My God! Every paper in America printed passages about Mary Astor's sex life. Hollywood executives panicked. But here's where it gets interesting. The scandal actually helped her. Audiences loved her more. They saw her as a real woman fighting for her daughter, not some untouchable star. By 1941, when she played the lying, seductive Bridget O'Shaughnessy, that bad girl reputation made her perfect. The notoriety added authenticity. Audiences could believe she was a femme fatale because they'd read about her real-life passion. She won the custody battle, got her daughter 9 months a year, and won an Oscar in 1941 for The Great Lie. The scandal that should have ended her career made her a bigger star. Sidney Greenstreet, film debut at 61. Sidney Greenstreet had spent 40 years on stage. Shakespeare, theatrical legend, Broadway musicals. He'd turned down countless film offers because he loved theater and didn't trust Hollywood. But at 61, weighing nearly 300 pounds, he finally said yes. John Huston had seen Greenstreet in a play and knew he'd be perfect as Caspar Gutman. Warner Brothers had to custom manufacture his entire wardrobe. The chair he sits in during his hotel scene with Bogart? Custom built because regular chairs weren't wide enough or strong enough. And here's the most incredible part. That famous 7-minute drugged drink scene where Gutman explains the Falcon's history while waiting for knockout drops. to take effect, was Greenstreet's very first scene on camera, ever. He earned an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor in his film debut at 61 years old. He'd make only 24 films total before ill health forced him to retire. But what a legacy. The 7-minute take that took 2 days to rehearse. That drugging scene is one of the most technically impressive shots in 1940s cinema. An unbroken 7-minute take with intricate camera movement. The camera follows Greenstreet and Bogart from room to room, down a hallway, booms up and down, shows Bogart's increasingly drunken face, pans to Greenstreet's massive stomach from Bogart's point of view, all in one continuous shot. They rehearsed for 2 full days, 2 days of practice for one 7-minute scene. One mistake, and they'd start over. Huston wanted the tension of real time, wanted audiences to feel Spade succumbing to the drug. When they finally nailed it, Roger Ebert would later call it an astonishing unbroken 7-minute take, all because a first-time director had the vision to try something that ambitious. Humphrey Bogart saved the ending with one line. The most famous line in the Maltese Falcon, "The stuff that dreams are made of,"
The stuff that dreams are made of,
wasn't in Dashiell Hammett's novel. It wasn't in Huston's screenplay. Humphrey Bogart suggested it. Bogart, who'd started on Broadway, knew his Shakespeare. At the end of The Tempest, Prospero says, "We are such stuff as dreams are made on." Bogart pitched it to Huston, describing the worthless blackbird, and Huston loved it instantly. It's the perfect final note. Film noir expert Eddie Muller confirmed this story. Bogart had an ear for dialogue that elevated every script he touched. He'd do it again with "Here's looking at you, kid" in Casablanca. Before we continue, which classic film noir should we cover next? Double Indemnity, Out of the Past, Touch of Evil? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. And if you're loving these deep dives into old Hollywood secrets, smash that like button and subscribe. We're just getting started. The Falcon prop dropped on Bogart's foot, and you can see the dent. 8 Falcon props were made, 2 lead versions weighing about 50 pounds each, and 6 lighter plaster ones. During shooting, actress Lee Patrick accidentally dropped one of the heavy lead Falcons directly on Humphrey Bogart's foot. Bogart later joked to Patrick, "This is what I get for saving you when you tried to give me the bird." The Falcon's tail feathers were visibly dented from the drop. In 2013, one of the original lead Falcons sold at auction for over $4 million, more than 10 times what the entire film cost to make. These birds have become some of the most valuable movie memorabilia in existence. Not bad for something that cost $75 to manufacture. Shot in sequence, almost unheard of in Hollywood. Huston shot almost entirely in chronological order, with only a few exterior shots filmed out of sequence. This was revolutionary in 1941 Hollywood, where economics dictated shooting all scenes in one location together, regardless of story order. Shooting in sequence helped the actors tremendously. Mary Astor especially benefited. Huston directed her to run around the set before scenes to make herself breathless and nervous, perfect for a character constantly lying and on edge. That technique only works when building tension over time. Modern directors like Christopher Nolan sometimes shoot in sequence, but it remains rare because it's expensive and logistically complex. Huston pulled it off on his very first film because his obsessive planning made it possible. The cast pranked visitors to protect their set. The cast and crew knew they were making something special, and they didn't want studio executives or publicity people disrupting their flow. So they developed an elaborate prank system to scare visitors away. One day, publicity brought priests to the set. Right before shooting, Mary Astor looked down and said loudly, "Hold it, I've got a goddamn run in my stocking." The publicist quickly ushered the mortified priests out. From then on, it became a game. They'd stage fake arguments for visiting social club lady. Bogart would scream at Greenstreet. Huston would jump in. Or Peter Lorre would emerge from Mary Astor's dressing room, adjusting his fly, saying, "See you later, Mary," while guests looked on in horror. These pranks worked. Word spread that the set was chaotic and inappropriate, so people stayed away, leaving them free to work in peace. Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet, Hollywood's greatest odd couple. The Maltese Falcon paired Peter Lorre and Sidney Greenstreet for the first time, and their chemistry was so electric that Warner Brothers immediately put them in more films. They'd make 9 films total. The physical contrast alone was comedy gold. Lorre tiny and twitchy, Greenstreet massive and imposing. But they also played off each other brilliantly, creating dynamics where you couldn't tell if they were allies or about to betray each other. Perfect for noir. In The Maltese Falcon, their relationship has unmistakable homoerotic subtext. Joel Caro's character is coded as gay in ways daring for 1941. He's impeccably dressed, carries a cane for aesthetics, owns a perfume-scented handkerchief.
Look what you did to my shirt.
The British Film Institute later noted that Lorre managed to squeeze such gay abandon past the censors, and that his relationship with Greenstreet was clearly more than just boss and employee. Almost no dialogue cut from Hammett's novel. Huston did something almost unheard of. He stayed faithful to the source material. He loved Dashiell Hammett's prose so much that he lifted huge chunks of dialogue straight from the novel. According to some sources, his secretary simply reformatted the book into screenplay format. Huston's preparation was so precise that almost no lines were eliminated in the final edit. The only major scene missing is the Flitcraft parable, a philosophical story Spade tells about a man who abandons his life after a near-death experience. Huston cut it because it didn't advance the plot, but everything else stayed. This fidelity to Hammett's hard-boiled prose is why the dialogue crackles. Lines like, "When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it," came straight from the page. Arthur Edison's cinematography-defined film noir. Cinematographer Arthur Edison had previously worked on Universal's monster movies like Frankenstein and All Quiet on the Western Front. For the Maltese Falcon, he used low-key lighting and a resting angle to emphasize character nature and actions. Edison used a special 21mm wide-angle lens, part of his personal equipment. This created stunning depth and crispness throughout. He built on German Expressionism influences, creating stark contrasts between light and shadow that would define the noir visual style. The American Cinematographer magazine in November 1941 called it unusually interesting, and noted it was one of the first films to successfully adapt the Citizen Kane photographic technique to routine production. Edison's handling of shadows, depth, and roofed-in sets became the blueprint for film noir cinematography. His work on this film influenced generations of noir filmmakers. Elisha Cook, Jr., the ultimate fall guy. Elisha Cook Jr. played Wilmer Cook, the angry little gunman doomed to be the fall guy. Before this, Cook had played cheerful collegiates, but Huston cast him against type as the bug-eyed, baby-faced killer, and it made his career. Cook became so typecast after this that he spent the next 60 years playing weaklings, sadistic losers, and hoodlums, who usually got murdered. Here's the wild part. According to director John Huston, Cook lived alone in the high Sierra Mountains between films, tied flies, and caught golden trout. When Hollywood wanted him, they sent a courier up to his mountain cabin. He'd come down, do a picture, then withdraw to his retreat. He was the last surviving main cast member when he died in 1995. The opening scene had to be reshot after test audiences were confused. After the first preview screening on September 5, 1941, studio head Jack Warner panicked. Test audiences found the opening confusing, so he ordered a simplified opening that made the setup clearer. Cinematographer Ernest Haller shot the reshoot since Arthur Edison was unavailable. This kind of studio interference usually spells disaster, but Warner had good instincts. The new opening helped audiences immediately understand who Sam Spade was and what trouble walked through his door. The final version premiered in New York on October 3, 1941, and was an immediate critical and commercial success. Sometimes the suits get it right. John Huston's father played Captain Jacoby. In an uncredited role, Huston cast his own father, Walter Huston, as Captain Jacoby, the ship captain who staggers into Spade's office, clutching the Falcon, before dying. It's a small but memorable part. Walter Huston was already a successful actor, having appeared in films since the silent era. He'd go on to win an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor in his son's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre 7 years later. There's something beautiful about a director giving his father a role in his first film, especially when that film becomes a classic. Even if most audiences didn't know it was him, the Huston, and that mattered. Warner Brothers wanted a sequel and almost got one. The Maltese Falcon was such a hit that Warner Brothers immediately greenlit the further adventures of the Maltese Falcon. They approached Dashiell Hammett to write the screenplay and planned to have Huston direct with Bogart reprising his role. But it fell apart for the most Hollywood reason: money. Huston and Bogart were suddenly in high demand, and their asking prices skyrocketed. Hammett wanted $5,000, huge money in 1941, and Warner Brothers balked. The sequel never happened: The Real Maltese Falcon. The fictional Maltese Falcon was supposedly made in 1539 by the Knights of Malta as tribute to Charles V of Spain, encrusted with jewels from beak to claw. In reality, Hammett based it on a real ceremonial vessel called the Kniphausen Hawk. Artist Fred Sexton, an old high school friend of John Huston, designed the movie prop to look nothing like the Kniphausen Hawk. Sexton's version is sleeker, more stylized, more noir, standing upright with fierce talons. It's become more iconic than the real thing. The Maltese Falcon invented film noir as we know it. It made Humphrey Bogart a legend. It launched John Huston's incredible directing career, and it proved that sometimes the third time really is the charm. If you've got the vision, the talent, and a 61-year-old theater actor willing to take a chance on Hollywood, the stuff that dreams are made of, it's right here. Now go watch it again. You'll see it with completely new eyes. And don't forget to hit that like button and check out our other film noir deep dives. The shadows are just getting darker.